I stared at my phone screen, certain my eyes were playing tricks on me. The notification from my banking app glowed accusingly in the pre-dawn darkness of my Seattle bedroom. Transaction alert. $42,760 charged to account ending in 4892. My stomach dropped as I scrolled through the details. 35 first-class tickets from New York to Dubai, all purchased at 3 a.m. while I slept. My hands trembled as I opened my email. There it was, a confirmation from Emirates Airlines. I scanned the passenger list and felt my blood turn to ice. My parents' names appeared twice. My brother Trevor and his wife Melissa. My sister Hannah and her husband Kyle. Their children. Extended family members I barely recognized, all traveling in luxury on my dime. I called my mother immediately, not caring that it was barely 6 a.m. in New York. "Claire, darling," she answered, her voice sickeningly sweet. "You are awake early." "Mom, what did you do?" My voice cracked with disbelief. "You charged over $40,000 to my credit card." "Oh, that," she laughed, the sound light and unconcerned. "Your father and I decided the family reunion in Dubai should be special. First class seemed appropriate. Everyone is so excited." "You cannot just steal my credit card information and book flights," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "That is fraud." "Steal? Do not be dramatic, Claire. We are family. Your father specifically told you the tickets were $1,220 each. You said you were not coming, so we assumed you would not mind helping everyone else enjoy the trip." I remembered that conversation from 3 weeks ago. Dad had called to tell me about the family reunion his wealthy brother was hosting in Dubai. When he mentioned the ticket price, I had politely declined. I worked as a biotechnology research coordinator, and while my salary was comfortable, it was not extravagant. Spending over $1,000 on a flight to attend a week of awkward family gatherings held no appeal. "That did not give you permission to use my card," I said through gritted teeth. "Well, it is done now," Mom replied breezily. "The tickets are non-refundable. You might as well accept it. Besides, this is what family does for each other. Your father and I sacrificed so much raising you 3 children. The least you can do is help us enjoy our retirement." The guilt trip was classic manipulation, something I had endured my entire life. My parents had always favored Trevor, the golden child who became a financial consultant, and Hannah, the beauty queen who married well. I was the middle child, the one who chose science over social climbing, research over recognition. "I want you to pay me back," I said firmly. "Every cent." Mom sighed dramatically. "Claire, we barely have anything in our savings. You know your father's pension does not stretch very far. We were counting on your generosity. Do not be selfish about this." "Selfish? You stole from me." "I did not steal anything. I simply used the card information you gave us for emergencies. This was an emergency. Family time is precious, and your uncle only turned 70 once. I wanted to scream that I had given them my card information 3 years ago when Dad had surgery and needed help with medical copays. I had explicitly told them it was for medical emergencies only. Instead, I took a deep breath. "I am reporting this as fraud to my bank," I said quietly. "You would not dare embarrass your family like that," Mom replied, her voice turning cold. "Think about what people would say. Your parents arrested for credit card fraud? How would that look for Trevor's business? For Hannah's reputation?" The threat was clear. If I pursued this, I would be painted as the villain who destroyed the family. I would be the ungrateful daughter who could not share her success, never mind that their definition of my success was wildly inflated. "I need to go," I said, and ended the call. I sat in my darkened bedroom, rage and helplessness warring inside me. This was not the first time my family had used me. They had borrowed money that was never repaid, asked me to co-sign loans they defaulted on, and expected me to cover expenses for family events I did not even attend. But this was different. This was brazen theft disguised as family obligation. My phone buzzed again. A text from Trevor. "Thanks for covering the flight, sis. Dad told us you volunteered. Very generous of you. See you in Dubai?" I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I got up and made coffee. As a research coordinator at a prominent biotechnology firm, my job required precision, attention to detail, and the ability to solve complex problems. I needed to approach the situation the same way I approached my work, methodically and strategically. By the time dawn broke over Seattle, I had made my decision. I would not report the charges as fraud. My mother was right about one thing. The fallout would be worse than the financial loss. But I would not forget this, and I certainly would not forgive it. I went to work that morning carrying a new weight of betrayal. My colleague Jessica noticed immediately. "You look terrible," she said bluntly, setting a container of homemade cookies on my desk. What happened? Jessica and I had worked together for 4 years. She knew about my complicated family dynamics, though even she would be shocked by this latest violation. "My parents stole $43,000 from me," I said flatly. Jessica's mouth fell open. "They did what?" I explained the situation while we reviewed data from our latest clinical trial. The study focused on regenerative tissue therapy, groundbreaking work that could revolutionize treatment for degenerative diseases. The irony was not lost on me that I spent my days trying to heal people while my own family inflicted fresh wounds. "Claire, you have to report this," Jessica insisted. "That is serious theft." "And then what? My parents get arrested? My siblings never speak to me again? I become the monster who destroyed the family over money?" I shook my head. "They win either way. If I report it, I am the bad guy. If I do not, they get away with it and will probably do something similar again." "So, what are you going to do?" "I do not know yet," I admitted. "But I am not going to just roll over and take it." Throughout the day, I received messages from various family members. Hannah sent a photo of her new outfit for the Dubai trip, purchased with money she allegedly did not have. Trevor forwarded a restaurant recommendation for Dubai, assuming I would join them despite my earlier refusal. Aunts and uncles I barely knew thanked me for my generosity. No one asked if I had actually agreed to pay. No one questioned whether this was appropriate. They simply accepted that Claire, reliable Claire, would handle it, because that was what Claire did. By the time I got home that evening, I had a plan forming. It would take time and careful execution, but I was good at both. My work in biotechnology had taught me patience. Results came from meticulous preparation and perfect timing. This would be no different. I started by documenting everything: screenshots of the charges, recordings of phone conversations with my mother, emails confirming I had never authorized the purchases. I created a detailed spreadsheet tracking every time my family had taken financial advantage of me over the past decade. The total was staggering: over $97,000 in unpaid loans, covered expenses, and outright theft. My parents had retired to a modest home in upstate New York 5 years ago, claiming poverty while somehow affording luxury vacations and expensive hobbies. Trevor lived in a Manhattan high-rise with Melissa, funding a lifestyle that exceeded what his income should support. Hannah and Kyle owned a sprawling house in Connecticut, filled with designer furniture and expensive toys for their 3 children. And me? I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in Seattle, drove a used car, and carefully budgeted every expense because I was perpetually recovering from my family's financial vampirism. The next morning, I called my bank and explained the situation carefully. I did not report it as fraud. Instead, I set up new security measures and canceled the compromised card. The representative was sympathetic, but clear that since the charges had already processed and the tickets were issued, recovery would be difficult without a fraud claim. "I understand," I said. "I just want to make sure it cannot happen again." I also contacted a lawyer, someone Jessica recommended who specialized in family law and financial disputes. During our consultation, he confirmed what I already knew. I could pursue legal action, but it would be costly, time-consuming, and emotionally devastating. However, he added, you should document everything. If you decide to pursue this later, you will need a paper trail, and if they try something similar again, you will have evidence of a pattern. I thanked him and left his office with a folder full of information about my legal options. I tucked it away, not ready to use it, but comforted by having it. The family reunion was scheduled for 3 weeks away. I spent that time watching my family's social media posts with cold detachment. Mom posted daily countdowns to the trip. Trevor shared photos of his new luggage set. Hannah posted about the spa treatments she planned to book in Dubai. None of them mentioned who paid for their flights. None of them thanked me directly, though a few made vague posts about family generosity and blessings. It was as if the money had simply appeared, a natural entitlement rather than theft. I went to work, conducted my research, and maintained my normal routine. But underneath the surface, something had fundamentally shifted. I had spent 29 years trying to earn my family's love and approval, believing that if I just gave enough, sacrificed enough, they would see my value. This final betrayal had shattered that illusion. On the Wednesday before their departure, Dad called. "Claire, your mother tells me you are upset about the tickets," he said without preamble. "Upset does not begin to cover it, Dad. You are being unreasonable. We raised you, clothed you, fed you. We paid for your education. You owe us." "I have paid you back 10 times over," I said quietly. "And you know I earned scholarships for most of my education. The loans I did take out, I repaid myself." "Family helps family," he insisted. "Your uncle is expecting all of us in Dubai. How would it look if we did not come because you were too cheap to help your own parents? How would it look if people knew you stole from your daughter?" I countered. There was a long pause. When Dad spoke again, his voice was steel. "You need to adjust your attitude, Claire. No one likes a selfish daughter. We did not raise you to be this way." He hung up before I could respond. That conversation clarified everything. They were not sorry. They did not think they had done anything wrong. In their minds, my money was their money, because family meant I owed them everything while they owed me nothing. I spent that evening researching Dubai, not because I planned to go, but because I needed to understand the stage where this drama would unfold. I looked up luxury hotels, fine dining restaurants, and exclusive experiences. I noted the costs, the excess, the indulgence my family would enjoy on my stolen money. The day before their departure, Hannah called. Unlike our parents, she at least had the decency to sound slightly guilty. "Claire, I know you are mad," she began. "But you have to understand. Kyle lost his job 3 months ago. We have been struggling. This trip is a chance for our kids to make memories with their grandparents. Can you really begrudge them that?" "Did Kyle lose his job before or after you bought that new furniture I saw on your Instagram?" I asked. Hannah went silent. "And the designer handbags you posted last week? Were those purchased during your financial struggle?" "That is different," Hannah said defensively. "Those were gifts." "From whom?" "That is none of your business. The point is, we needed this trip. The kids needed this trip. You could afford it. So what is the big deal?" "The big deal is that no one asked me. No one even told me until after it was done. You all just decided my money was yours to spend." "Because we knew you would say no," Hannah admitted. "You always say no. You are always too busy with your important research job to care about family. We took what we needed because you were not going to help voluntarily." Her honesty was almost refreshing in its cruelty. At least she was admitting the truth. They had stolen from me because they believed they deserved my money more than I did. "Have a wonderful trip, Hannah," I said, and ended the call. That night I could not sleep. I lay in bed thinking about every family gathering where I had been overlooked, every achievement I had earned that went unnoticed, every time I had been asked to give while receiving nothing in return. My work had been published in respected scientific journals, I had contributed to research that helped thousands of people. I had built a career based on dedication and intelligence. But none of that mattered to my family. To them, I was simply a resource to be exploited. The next day, I watched from Seattle as my family posted photos from JFK Airport. First-class lounge champagne, excited children holding boarding passes, my parents dressed in expensive outfits I had never seen before, purchased with money they claimed not to have. Trevor and Melissa looking smug and satisfied, Hannah and Kyle managing their 3 overstimulated kids while looking exhausted but happy. 35 people boarding a plane to Dubai, all flying first class, all courtesy of my stolen credit card. I went to work and threw myself into my research. We were preparing for a major presentation to potential investors, pharmaceutical companies interested in funding the next phase of our clinical trials. The presentation would determine whether our project continued or died. The pressure was intense, but I welcomed it. Work was something I could control. Jessica found me in the lab at 8 p.m., still running calculations. "Claire, go home," she said gently. "You have been here since 6 a.m. I need to finish this analysis. The analysis will be here tomorrow. You need rest." She sat down beside me. "Have you heard from your family?" "Just social media posts. They are having a wonderful time." "Hinan, you are okay?" "I am fine," I lied. Jessica gave me a look that said she did not believe me but would not push. "For what it is worth, I think you are handling this with incredible grace. I would have burned their house down by now." I managed a small smile. The trip is not over yet. After Jessica left, I packed up my work and headed home. My apartment felt empty and quiet. I ordered takeout and ate while scrolling through my family's posts. They had arrived in Dubai. The hotel was magnificent. The suite Mom and Dad scored had a view of the Burj Khalifa. Trevor posted a photo of the bottle of champagne waiting in his room with a caption about living well. All of it funded by my theft. I opened my laptop and began a new document. I titled it simply, Documentation. Then I started writing everything down. Every detail of the theft, every conversation, every manipulation. I included dates, amounts, and exact quotes where I could remember them. I attached screenshots and bank statements. When I finished, it was past midnight. The document was 23 pages long, a comprehensive record of financial abuse spanning a decade. I saved it in 3 different locations and emailed a copy to myself. Then I did something I had never done before. I blocked my family on social media, all of them. I did not want to see their vacation photos, their fake gratitude, their manufactured joy purchased with my money. Let them have their trip. Let them enjoy their luxury. But I would not be a spectator to my own exploitation. The next week passed in a strange calm. Without the constant barrage of family drama, I found myself more focused at work. Our presentation to the investors was approaching, and I channeled all my energy into preparation. The research we had conducted was solid, innovative, and potentially revolutionary. I believed in it completely. The day of the presentation arrived. I stood before a room of executives and scientists, presenting years of work with confidence and clarity. I fielded questions about methodology, statistical significance, and clinical applications. I spoke about the potential impact on patients, the lives that could be improved, the suffering that could be alleviated. When I finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then the lead investor, a woman named Victoria who headed a major pharmaceutical company, stood and applauded. Others followed. We had done it. The funding was approved, a multi-million-dollar investment that would take our research to the next level. Jessica hugged me in the hallway afterward. "You were brilliant," she said. "Absolutely brilliant." I should have felt triumphant. This was the culmination of years of work, a validation of my skills and dedication. But underneath the professional satisfaction was a hollow ache. I had no one to share this with. My family was still in Dubai, still spending my money, still oblivious to my achievements. That evening, I sat in my apartment with a glass of wine and allowed myself to feel everything I had been suppressing. Rage at the theft, grief at the betrayal, loneliness from years of being undervalued, and underneath it all, a cold determination that things would change. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "This is Victoria from the presentation today. I was very impressed with your work. Would you be interested in discussing a potential opportunity? I think you are exactly the kind of talent our company needs." I stared at the message, my mind racing. An opportunity with one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world? This could be career-defining. I typed back, "I would be very interested in learning more." Her response came quickly. "Excellent. I am in Seattle through tomorrow. Dinner tonight to discuss? My treat." I agreed, and spent the next hour getting ready. When I met Victoria at an upscale restaurant downtown, she got straight to business. "Claire, I do not waste time with false flattery," she said over appetizers. "Your research is extraordinary. Your presentation skills are top tier. I want you to head a new division we are creating focused specifically on regenerative therapies. The salary is $300,000 annually, plus stock options and bonuses." I nearly choked on my water. My current salary was $92,000. Victoria smiled at my reaction. "I can see this interests you. The position is based here in Seattle, so you would not need to relocate. We are building something revolutionary, and I want the best people leading it. You are the best." "When would you need an answer?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Take the weekend to think about it. But I will be honest, I am talking to other candidates as well. This is not an empty offer, Claire. I genuinely believe you are the right person, but I need someone committed and ready to move quickly." We talked for 2 more hours about the research, the vision for the division, and the resources I would have at my disposal. It was everything I had ever wanted professionally: recognition, authority, and the means to do work that truly mattered. When I got home that night, I found 17 missed calls from my mother. I had unblocked them earlier in the day without thinking, a reflexive habit I immediately regretted. There were also 12 text messages, each more frantic than the last. The first few were about the trip. How wonderful Dubai was, how grateful everyone felt, how blessed they were to have such a generous family member. But the later messages took a different tone. "Your father fell at the hotel. He is in the hospital. Call me immediately. Claire, this is an emergency. Your father needs you to send money for medical expenses. The travel insurance is not covering everything. Why are you not answering? Your father could die, and you cannot even be bothered to pick up the phone." I felt a twinge of concern quickly drowned by suspicion. I called the hotel directly and asked to be connected to their medical services coordinator. After explaining the situation, I was transferred to a manager who confirmed that a guest matching my father's description had indeed slipped in the lobby earlier that day. "Is he still in the hospital?" I asked. "Oh no," the manager said. "He refused transport. He seemed fine, just a bit shaken. He went back to his room about 3 hours ago." I thanked the manager and hung up. So Dad was fine. This was another manipulation, another attempt to extract money from me. I wondered how much they would ask for this time. 5,000? 10,000? I did not call my mother back. Instead, I went to bed and slept better than I had in weeks. The next morning, Mom called at 7 a.m. "Claire, finally," she said when I answered. "Why did you not call me back? Your father could have died." The hotel manager told me Dad refused medical transport and went back to his room hours ago, I said calmly. "He is fine." There was a pause. "Well, he is fine now, but he was hurt. He needs private care for the rest of the trip. The hotel doctor recommended a private nurse. It will cost $8,000. No, I said simply. What do you mean, no? Your father is injured. If he needed medical care, he would be in a hospital. This is another scam to get money from me. I am not paying for it. How dare you, Mom hissed. After everything we have done for you, you would let your father suffer? You already stole over $40,000 from me. You do not get more. We did not steal anything. We borrowed, and family does not keep score like this. You are being cruel and selfish. Goodbye, Mom, I said, and ended the call. I spent the weekend seriously considering Victoria's offer. The salary alone would change my life. I could pay off my remaining student loans, build actual savings, and stop living paycheck to paycheck because my family drained every extra cent I earned. But more than the money, the position represented validation. Someone saw my worth. Someone valued my work. On Monday morning, I called Victoria and accepted the position. We agreed on a start date 6 weeks away, giving me time to transition my current research responsibilities and prepare for the new role. When I told my current supervisor, he was disappointed but understanding. You deserve this opportunity, he said. You have been the backbone of this project. We are going to miss you tremendously, but I am excited to see what you accomplish next. Jessica was thrilled. This is incredible, Claire. We should celebrate. Dinner this week? Absolutely, I agreed. That evening, I checked my social media out of habit and found that I had been tagged in several posts from Dubai. I had forgotten to reblock everyone after checking on Dad's supposed injury. The posts were from the final days of the trip, my family's last hurrah on my stolen money. Hannah had posted, "So grateful to family who make dreams possible. This trip has been magical. The kids will remember it forever." Trevor had shared a photo of everyone at dinner, expensive wine bottles lining the table. Family is everything, blessed beyond measure. Mom had posted a sunset photo with a caption, 35 of us together in Dubai, proof that family bonds are stronger than anything. Thank you to everyone who contributed to making this happen. I noticed what they all had in common, vague gratitude with no specific mention of me. They had taken my money but would not even acknowledge me directly. It was as if the funds had materialized from thin air, a collective family miracle rather than individual theft. I blocked them all again and deleted the tags. The next week, I received an email from Trevor. Subject line: Family investment opportunity. Against my better judgment, I opened it. Trevor had written a lengthy pitch about a startup he wanted to launch, some financial consulting platform that needed investors. He was looking for $50,000 and thought I might be interested in being part of the ground floor. The audacity was breathtaking. He had just enjoyed a first-class vacation on my stolen money, and now he wanted more. I deleted the email without responding. My family returned from Dubai on a Thursday. I knew because Hannah posted airport photos with a caption about how sad she was to leave paradise. Mom shared pictures of their suitcases full of souvenirs. Trevor posted about already planning their next big family trip, maybe to the Maldives next year. That weekend, I had dinner with Jessica at a cozy bistro near the waterfront. Over wine and pasta, I told her about Victoria's job offer and my acceptance. "This is exactly what you deserve," Jessica said, raising her glass. "To new beginnings and leaving toxic people behind." "To new beginnings," I echoed. "Have you heard from your family since they got back?" she asked. "Not directly. But I have been watching their posts. They are already planning their next exotic vacation. Using whose money, I wonder? Not mine," I said firmly. "I changed all my account numbers and passwords. I set up alerts for any unusual activity. They cannot access anything anymore." "Good. What are you going to do about the money they already took?" "I do not know yet," I admitted. "Part of me wants to pursue legal action, but I know how that would end. They would paint me as vindictive. I would become the villain in the family story." Jessica leaned forward. So make yourself the villain in a way they will never see coming. You are brilliant, Claire. Use that intelligence strategically. Her words stayed with me through the weekend. I thought about strategy, about leverage, about turning the tables in ways my family would not anticipate. They viewed me as weak, as someone they could use without consequences. It was time to show them exactly how wrong they were. On Monday, I started planning in earnest. I reviewed every financial transaction with my family over the past decade. I examined their social media presence, their public claims about finances, their lifestyle choices that contradicted their poverty narrative. I gathered evidence methodically, the way I approached research, systematically and thoroughly. I also did something unexpected. I hired a private investigator, someone who specialized in financial fraud. I gave him everything I had compiled and asked him to verify details and find anything I might have missed. "This is quite a pattern," he said during our second meeting. "Your family has a history of living beyond their means and using others to fund their lifestyle. Your parents have 3 maxed-out credit cards in their names, your brother has defaulted on 2 business loans, and your sister has judgments against her for unpaid debts." "Can you document all of this?" I asked. "Already done," he said, sliding a thick folder across his desk. "Financial records, public filings, social media archives showing expenditures that do not match reported income. Everything is here." I paid his fee and left with the folder tucked under my arm. That evening, I read through everything. My family was even worse with money than I had realized. They were drowning in debt while maintaining appearances of success, and they had been using me as a lifeline, taking from me to keep their sinking ships afloat. The next piece of my plan fell into place unexpectedly. I received a call from an attorney representing my uncle, the one who had hosted the Dubai reunion. He was updating his will and wanted to discuss the family dynamics. "Your uncle is concerned about how his estate will be distributed," the attorney explained. "He knows your parents struggle financially, and he worries about leaving them a large sum that they might mismanage. He asked me to speak with you about potentially serving as a trustee." "Why me?" I asked. "He says you are the only responsible one in the family. He respects your education and career. He thinks you would handle the responsibility appropriately." I scheduled a call with my uncle for the following week. During our conversation, he was surprisingly candid. "Claire, I know what happened with the flights," he said. "Your mother bragged about how she got you to pay for everyone. She thought it was clever." My stomach tightened. "She told you she stole from me?" "She said you volunteered, but I am not naive. I know your parents. I know how they operate. They have been mooching off relatives their entire lives. I am disappointed, but not surprised." "Then why did you let them come to Dubai?" "Because I wanted to see everyone," he said simply. "But I am also 70 years old with a substantial estate and no children of my own. I have been thinking about legacy, about what happens to my money when I am gone. I do not want it wasted." We talked for over an hour. By the end, I had agreed to serve as trustee of a trust that would manage any inheritance my parents received. They would get monthly disbursements, but could not access the principal. It was not revenge, exactly, but it was protection against their worst impulses. "There is one more thing," my uncle said before we hung up. "I am planning to update my will to leave you a significant portion of my estate. Not because I pity you, but because you have made something of yourself without relying on family money. You deserve to be rewarded for that." I did not know what to say. "Uncle Robert, that is incredibly generous, but I do not expect anything from you." "I know you do not. That is exactly why you are getting it. The will revision will be complete next month. I wanted you to know in advance." After that call, I sat in stunned silence. My uncle's inheritance would not come for years, hopefully decades. But the knowledge that someone in my family actually valued me was overwhelming. It also gave me leverage I had not anticipated. Over the next few weeks, I continued preparing for my new position, while carefully implementing my plan. I opened a separate bank account that my family knew nothing about and redirected my paychecks there. My old account, the one they had information for, I left with just enough to cover basic bills. If they tried to access it again, they would find nothing to take. I also started subtly changing my social media presence. Instead of avoiding posts about my life, I began documenting my success. Photos from work events, mentions of the new position without specifics about salary, articles I had been featured in about the research. I made sure my family could see that I was thriving, that my life was moving forward without them. The response was predictable. Trevor sent a congratulatory message about my new job, followed immediately by another pitch for his startup. Hannah commented on posts with emojis, but never actual words. Mom called twice, both times going to voicemail with messages about how proud she was of me, followed by mentions of bills they could not pay. I did not respond to any of it. 6 weeks later, I started my new position. Victoria had not oversold the opportunity. The resources were extraordinary, the team was talented, and the work was exactly what I had always wanted to do. My first week, I attended a pharmaceutical industry conference where I was introduced as the director of the new regenerative medicine division. People who had ignored me at previous conferences suddenly wanted to network. At the conference, I ran into someone I had not seen in years. Gregory, a former colleague from graduate school who now worked as a medical technology consultant. We had coffee and caught up on the past decade. "You have done incredibly well for yourself," he said. "I always knew you would. You were the smartest person in our program." "Thank you. You seem to be doing well too." "I do all right. Mostly I help companies navigate medical technology regulations and patents. It is less exciting than your work, but pays the bills." He paused. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. I saw you tagged in some photos from Dubai a few weeks ago. Big family trip?" My smile tightened. I did not actually go. That was my family's trip. Must have been expensive, all those first-class tickets. "It was," I said carefully, not wanting to explain the full story. Gregory nodded thoughtfully. "I only mention it because I was at the same hotel that week for a different conference. I saw your family in the lobby a few times. They seemed to be enjoying themselves immensely." Something in his tone made me pause. "What do you mean?" "Nothing really. Just that they were very vocal about their wealth, their connections, their importance. Your father was telling anyone who would listen about his daughter, the big-shot pharmaceutical executive who paid for everyone's trip." I felt heat rise in my face. "He said that?" "Multiple times. He made it sound like you were some high-powered executive with unlimited resources. I almost introduced myself, but they seemed like they wanted to be left alone with their status." After Gregory left, I sat alone with my coffee, fury building. Not only had my parents stolen from me, they had used my theft to elevate their own status, lying about my position and salary to impress strangers. They had turned my humiliation into their bragging rights. That evening, I called the private investigator again. "I need you to find out everything about my parents' current financial situation," I said. "Assets, debts, income streams, everything. I also need the same information for my siblings." "Are you planning legal action?" he asked. "I am planning something," I said. "I am just not sure what yet." The investigator's report arrived 2 weeks later. It was even worse than I had imagined. My parents had over $80,000 in credit card debt, a second mortgage on their house they could barely afford, and no significant savings. Trevor's startup ideas had all failed, leaving him with substantial business debts and a reputation for unreliability. Hannah and Kyle were 3 months behind on their mortgage and facing possible foreclosure. They were all drowning, and they had been using me as their life raft, taking whatever they could whenever they could because they had no other options. I should have felt pity. Instead, I felt cold clarity. These people would never change. They would never see me as anything other than a resource. No amount of giving would ever be enough. No sacrifice would ever earn their respect. I had spent 29 years trying to buy love from people who only valued me for what I could provide. I made a decision that night. I would cut them off completely. Not with anger or drama, but with strategic precision. And I would make sure they understood exactly what they had lost. My opportunity came sooner than expected. Mom called the following week with a request that was stunning in its audacity. "Claire, darling, we need your help with something urgent," she began, her voice syrupy sweet. "Your father and I are thinking of selling the house and downsizing, but we need some repairs first to get the best price. The contractor quoted us $35,000. We were hoping you could lend us the money. We will pay you back when the house sells, of course." "No," I said simply. "No? Just like that? You will not even consider helping your parents? You stole over $40,000 from me for a vacation. You have not paid back a single cent. You lied about Dad's injury to try to get more money. You used my name to brag to strangers in Dubai about wealth I do not have. And now you want me to lend you $35,000 more?" The answer is no. "We did not steal," Mom insisted, her voice turning shrill. "We borrowed, and we were always planning to pay you back." "Really? How? You have no savings, massive debt, and live on a fixed income. Where exactly was this repayment going to come from?" There was silence on the other end. Then Mom's voice changed, becoming cold and hard. "You have changed, Claire. You used to understand family loyalty. Now you are selfish and cruel. Your father and I sacrificed everything for you children, and this is how you repay us?" "You sacrificed nothing," I said, my own voice like ice. "You took every opportunity to use me while giving nothing in return. I am done being your bank account. I am done being the family scapegoat. I am done with all of it. If you do this, you are out of the family," Mom threatened. "You will not be welcome at holidays, at gatherings, at anything. You will be dead to us." "Good," I said. "That works perfectly for me." I hung up and immediately blocked her number. Then I blocked Trevor, Hannah, and every other family member who might try to guilt-trip me on their behalf. I changed my email address and did not give them the new one. I made my social media completely private, visible only to confirmed friends who were not related to me by blood. For the first time in my life, I felt free. The next few months were transformative. Without the constant drain of family drama and financial demands, I threw myself into my work with renewed energy. The regenerative medicine division thrived under my leadership. We published papers, secured additional funding, and began expanding our research scope. Victoria became a mentor, someone who believed in me and pushed me to reach higher. She introduced me to influential people in the pharmaceutical industry, people who saw my value and treated me with respect. My social circle expanded to include colleagues who shared my interests, who engaged in actual reciprocal relationships where both parties gave and received. I bought a new car, not a luxury vehicle, but something reliable and safe. I took a vacation to Iceland, my first real vacation in years, and spent a week hiking and photographing landscapes without anyone demanding I pay their way too. I started saving money, watching my accounts grow instead of being perpetually depleted. 6 months after cutting off my family, I received a letter from a law firm. My Uncle Robert had passed away suddenly from a heart attack. I had known he was updating his will, but his death still shocked me. He had seemed healthy, vibrant, decades away from dying. The reading of the will was scheduled for the following month. I flew to New York for it, my first time back since before the Dubai incident. The lawyer's office was in Manhattan, a sleek space that screamed expensive. I arrived early and waited in a conference room with polished wood furniture and a view of the city. My parents walked in 10 minutes later and stopped dead when they saw me. "What are you doing here?" Mom demanded. I was invited, I said calmly. Uncle Robert asked me to serve as trustee for his estate. Dad's face turned red. That is ridiculous. We are his siblings. If anyone should be trustee, it should be us. Uncle Robert disagreed. Trevor and Hannah arrived next, both looking uncomfortable when they saw me. We had not spoken since I cut them off. Hannah tried to smile, but it came out as more of a grimace. Trevor ignored me entirely, sitting as far from me as possible. The attorney entered precisely at 2 p.m., carrying a leather portfolio that he set on the conference table with careful deliberation. He introduced himself as James, Uncle Robert's personal attorney for the past 20 years. His expression was professionally neutral as he surveyed the room. "Thank you all for coming," he began. Robert was very specific about how he wanted this handled. Before we begin the reading of the will, I need to address some preliminary matters. He opened the portfolio and removed several documents. Robert came to me 8 months ago to substantially revise his estate plan. He was very clear about his reasoning, and he asked me to share certain information with all of you before distributing the assets. Mom shifted uncomfortably. Dad's jaw was clenched tight. James continued. Robert was aware of the financial difficulties many of you face. He was also aware of certain behaviors within the family that concerned him greatly. Specifically, he knew about the incident involving Claire's credit card and the Dubai trip. My siblings had the decency to look ashamed. My parents looked defiant. Robert felt strongly that his estate should benefit those who had demonstrated responsibility and integrity. To that end, he has left the bulk of his estate, valued at approximately $4.2 million, to Claire. The room erupted. Mom gasped. Dad slammed his hand on the table. Trevor shouted that it was impossible, that the will would be contested. Hannah started crying. James waited for the noise to subside. The will is ironclad. I assure you, it was prepared with the specific anticipation of challenges. Robert was of completely sound mind when he made these decisions. Now, if I may continue. He turned to me. Claire, you inherit the primary estate, including Robert's investment portfolio, his property in the Hamptons, and the majority of his liquid assets. You also inherit his collection of rare books and his vintage car collection. I sat frozen, unable to process the enormity of what I was hearing. James turned to my parents. To his brother and sister-in-law, Robert leaves a trust fund of $300,000. This will provide monthly disbursements of $2,000 for living expenses. The principal cannot be accessed, and the trust will be managed by Claire as trustee. $2,000 a month? Dad shouted. That is insulting. We are his family. Robert felt this arrangement would provide for your needs while preventing mismanagement of funds, James said evenly. He was quite clear on this point. He moved on to my siblings. To Trevor and Hannah, Robert leaves $50,000 each, to be distributed in quarterly installments over 2 years. Trevor looked like he might be sick. Hannah was openly sobbing now. James set down the papers. There is one final element. Robert left letters for each of you. I will distribute those now. He handed out sealed envelopes. Mine was thick, several pages at least. My parents' envelopes were thinner. Trevor and Hannah received single sheets. You may read these privately, James said. The formal estate distribution will begin next week. Claire, I will need to meet with you separately to discuss your responsibilities as trustee and executor. My family filed out without looking at me. I waited until they were gone before opening my letter. Dear Claire, it began in Uncle Robert's distinctive handwriting. If you are reading this, I am gone. I hope I had many more years, but one never knows. I wanted to explain my decisions to you directly, not just through legal documents. I have watched you grow from a quiet, overlooked child into a remarkable woman. You chose a difficult path, dedicating yourself to science and research that helps others. You did this without family support, without recognition from those who should have celebrated you most. You built your success on your own merit and maintained your integrity even when it would have been easier to compromise. I have also watched how your parents and siblings treated you. The Dubai incident was the final confirmation of what I had suspected for years. They saw you as a resource to exploit, not a person to value. Your mother's bragging about manipulating you into paying for their vacation sickened me. I realized then that leaving my estate to your parents would mean it would ultimately be taken from you in pieces through guilt trips and manufactured emergencies. You deserve this inheritance, Claire. Not because I pity you, but because you have earned it through your character and your choices. Use it to build the life you want, free from the weight of family obligation. Pursue your research, travel, invest in your future. Do whatever brings you joy. I am proud of you. I wish I had told you that more often when I was alive. You are everything a father could want in a daughter, and I am sorry your own parents could not see that. With love and respect, Uncle Robert. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Someone had seen me. Someone had valued me. And he had given me not just money, but validation and freedom. When I left the attorney's office, my parents were waiting in the hallway. Mom's face was blotchy with rage. "You poisoned him against us," she hissed. "You turned Robert against his own family for money." "I never said a word to Uncle Robert about any of you," I said truthfully. "He figured it out on his own." "We will contest this will," Dad said. "You will not get away with stealing our inheritance." "Uncle Robert anticipated that," I replied calmly. "The attorney made it very clear the will is unbreakable. But feel free to waste money on lawyers. You seem to enjoy making poor financial decisions." Mom stepped closer, her voice venomous. "You ungrateful, selfish girl. We raised you. We fed you and clothed you and put a roof over your head. Everything you have, you owe to us." "No," I said quietly. "Everything I have, I earned despite you. Despite your manipulation, your theft, your constant attempts to diminish me. Uncle Robert saw the truth. He knew exactly who you were and who I am. That is why I got the estate, and you got a managed trust." Hannah appeared from around the corner, her face streaked with tears. "How can you be so cold? We are your family." "You stopped being my family when you stole from me and felt no remorse," I said. "When you used me and gave nothing back. When you made me the villain for having boundaries. I am done pretending those blood ties mean something when they have only ever been a weapon against me." Trevor joined them, looking defeated rather than angry. "Claire, we know we messed up, but cutting us off completely? Keeping all of Uncle Robert's money? That is cruel." "Is it? Let me ask you something, Trevor. If I had been the one who died, would you have split your inheritance with me? Or would you have taken it all and felt entitled to it?" He did not answer. "That is what I thought," I said. "Goodbye, all of you. The trust will provide Mom and Dad with steady income. That is more than they deserve. As for the rest of you, you will get your $50,000 in installments. Use it wisely, because it is the last money you will ever see from me." I walked away from them, out of the building, into the crisp New York afternoon. I felt lighter than I had in years, as if I had been carrying an enormous weight that had finally been lifted. The next week was a whirlwind of estate management. I met with James multiple times to understand my responsibilities. The property in the Hamptons was a beautiful beach house that I could keep, sell, or rent. The investment portfolio was expertly managed and generating substantial returns. The rare book collection was worth over $200,000 alone. I made decisions quickly and confidently. I would keep the beach house for now, a retreat when I needed to escape Seattle. The investment portfolio would stay largely as it was, with some diversification recommended by financial advisors. The car collection, which included 3 vintage Porsches and a 1960s Ferrari, would be sold through specialty auctions. Within a month, I had liquidated some assets and reorganized others. My personal net worth had increased by over $4 million. It was surreal, transformative, and honestly terrifying. I had gone from living paycheck to paycheck to having more money than I could spend in a lifetime. I hired a wealth management firm to help me navigate this new reality. I set up trusts for future charitable giving, invested in startups working on medical innovations, and created a scholarship fund for students pursuing biotechnology research. The money would do good, would help people, would mean something beyond just sitting in accounts. I also did something for myself. I bought a house in Seattle, a beautiful modern home with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the water. It had space for a home office, a real kitchen, and a yard where I could plant a garden. For the first time, I had a home that was truly mine, purchased with money that no one could claim came from them. 3 months after Uncle Robert's death, I received an email from Hannah. The subject line read, "Please read." I almost deleted it, but curiosity won out. "Claire, I know you probably do not want to hear from me, but I need to say this. Kyle and I are losing the house. We are 30 days from foreclosure. The $50,000 from Uncle Robert helped, but it was not enough to cover all our debts. I am not asking you for money. I know you would say no, and honestly, I do not blame you. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what we did to you. Not just the Dubai thing, but everything. All those times we expected you to help while giving nothing back. All those times we made you feel small so we could feel bigger. I am sorry, Claire. I know sorry does not fix anything, but I need you to know I finally see it. We were terrible to you, and you deserved so much better. I hope you are happy now. I really do. You earned it." I stared at the email for a long time. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated. Part of me wanted to feel compassion. Mostly, I felt nothing. Hannah's apology came too late and meant too little. She was sorry now because she was suffering consequences. But where was the apology when I was drowning under their financial demands? Where was the compassion when they were spending my stolen money in Dubai? I did not respond. Instead, I archived the email and moved on with my day. My work continued to flourish. The Regenerative Medicine Division published breakthrough research that garnered international attention. I was invited to speak at conferences around the world, sharing our findings with the scientific community. My team expanded, bringing in brilliant researchers who shared my passion for innovation. Victoria pulled me aside after one particularly successful presentation. "Claire, I have been in this industry for 30 years, and I have rarely seen someone with your combination of scientific brilliance and leadership ability. You are going to change the world." "I am just doing the work I love," I said. "That is what makes you extraordinary," she replied. "You genuinely care about the impact, not just the accolades." 6 months after Uncle Robert's death, I took a vacation to the Hamptons house. It was my first time visiting the property, and it took my breath away. The house sat directly on the beach, with wraparound decks and massive windows that let in the ocean light. Uncle Robert had impeccable taste, and the interior was both elegant and comfortable. I spent a week there alone, reading, walking the beach, and thinking about how drastically my life had changed. A year ago, I was living in a cramped apartment, constantly stressed about money, perpetually drained by family demands. Now I had financial security, professional success, and peace. On my last evening there, I sat on the deck watching the sunset and allowed myself to feel grateful. Grateful for Uncle Robert's generosity, for Victoria's mentorship, for Jessica's friendship, for every person who had seen my value when my own family could not. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Trevor. I am getting married next month. I know we have not spoken, but it would mean a lot if you came. I understand if you say no." I deleted the message without responding. There was nothing left to say to any of them. The following month, I received notice that my parents had attempted to access the trust principal for an emergency home repair. As trustee, I reviewed the request with the attorney. The emergency was a kitchen renovation they wanted to do before hosting Thanksgiving. I denied the request. Mom called within hours, screaming obscenities. I let it go to voicemail and blocked the number. They would get their $2,000 monthly, enough to live modestly. Anything beyond that was not my problem. Trevor's wedding came and went. I saw photos on social media through Jessica, who still had mutual connections. It looked like a small ceremony, nothing fancy. Part of me wondered if they had expected me to fund that too, back when they still had access to my guilt and my wallet. A year after Uncle Robert's death, I took stock of my life. I was 30 years old, director of a division at a major pharmaceutical company, living in my dream home, and financially independent. I had published research that was changing treatment protocols for degenerative diseases. I had a circle of genuine friends who valued me as a person, not as a resource. I also had no contact with my biological family. They existed somewhere in New York, living their lives, but they were no longer part of mine. The trust provided for my parents. Trevor and Hannah had received their inheritances. I owed them nothing more. On the anniversary of Uncle Robert's death, I visited his grave. I brought flowers and stood in the quiet cemetery, grateful for the gift he had given me. Not just the money, but the validation. The proof that I was not crazy for feeling used and undervalued. The confirmation that someone saw who I really was. "Thank you," I whispered to the headstone. "You saved my life." That evening, I hosted a dinner party at my Seattle home. Jessica was there, along with colleagues from work, friends I had made through various professional and social circles. We ate well, laughed often, and celebrated the progress we had all made in our respective lives. As I looked around my dining room at these people who genuinely cared about me, who showed up without expecting anything in return, I realized this was what family should be. Not blood obligation, not guilt-based manipulation, but chosen connections built on mutual respect and authentic care. Someone asked me about my family, whether they lived locally. "No," I said simply. "I do not have much contact with them." "That must be hard," they said sympathetically. "Actually," I replied, "it is the best decision I ever made." The conversation moved on to other topics, and I felt no need to explain further. My past with my biological family was just that. Past. It did not define me anymore. 2 years after the Dubai incident, I received a letter forwarded through Uncle Robert's attorney. It was from my mother, handwritten on drugstore stationery. "Claire, I am writing because your father had a stroke. He is recovering, but it has made me think about mortality and regrets. I know I was not a good mother to you. I know we took advantage of your kindness and generosity. I am not asking for forgiveness or money or anything else. I just wanted you to know that I am sorry. You deserved better parents than we were. I hope you have found happiness." I read the letter twice, then filed it away in a drawer. I did not respond. I felt no obligation to absolve her or make her feel better about her choices. If she genuinely felt remorse, that was her burden to carry, not mine to relieve. Dad recovered from his stroke. I learned through a distant cousin who reached out on social media. He had some lasting effects, but was alive and functional. The trust continued to provide for them. They would be fine. My career continued to soar. By the time I was 32, I was being headhunted by universities and research institutions around the world. I had options, opportunities, and the freedom to choose my path based on what I wanted, not what I could afford. I started dating someone I met at a medical technology conference, a kind and brilliant surgeon named Daniel, who had his own successful career and no interest in my money. Our relationship was built on equality, shared interests, and genuine affection. It was unlike anything I had experienced before, unburdened by obligation or manipulation. When Daniel proposed after a year of dating, I said yes without hesitation. We planned a small wedding, just close friends and chosen family. No one from my biological family received an invitation. I did not owe them a role in my happiness. On my wedding day, Jessica served as my maid of honor. As she helped me into my dress, she smiled with pride. "Look at you," she said. "You built this life from nothing. You survived people who tried to break you and came out stronger." "I had help," I said. "Uncle Robert, Victoria, you, so many people who saw me when my own family could not." "You would have succeeded anyway," Jessica insisted. "Those people just helped you get there faster." During the reception, someone asked about my parents. "They could not make it," I said easily, which was technically true. I had not invited them, so they could not attend. 3 years after cutting off my family, the guilt had entirely dissipated. I had spent so long believing I owed them everything, that family bonds required endless sacrifice and tolerance of abuse. But I had learned the hard truth. You do not owe anyone access to your life, your resources, or your peace, not even family. Especially not family that treats you like an ATM with a heartbeat. The revenge I had enacted was not dramatic or explosive. I had not destroyed their lives or sought public humiliation. I had simply removed myself as their safety net and let natural consequences unfold. They had to face their own financial mismanagement without using me as a buffer. They had to live with the knowledge that the daughter they dismissed had thrived spectacularly without them. My parents continued to receive their monthly trust disbursements, a constant reminder that I controlled resources they could not access. Trevor struggled with various failed business ventures, never quite achieving the success he felt entitled to. Hannah and Kyle eventually declared bankruptcy and moved to a smaller home, their lavish lifestyle unsustainable without someone else funding it. And me? I built a life filled with purpose, success, and genuine relationships. I funded research that helped thousands of people. I mentored young scientists who reminded me of my younger self, overlooked and underestimated. I traveled the world, bought beautiful things when I wanted them, and gave generously to causes I believed in. I lived freely, unburdened by toxic obligation. The greatest revenge was not making them suffer. It was showing them, through my success and happiness, exactly what they had lost when they chose to use me rather than love me. They could see through social media, through industry news, through the rare family members who still maintained distant contact, that I was thriving, that the daughter they dismissed as a resource had become someone remarkable without their involvement. Years later, when I thought about those first-class tickets to Dubai purchased with my stolen money, I no longer felt rage. I felt grateful. That theft had been the catalyst I needed to finally break free from decades of manipulation. It had shown me clearly and undeniably that my family would never change, that no amount of giving would ever be enough, that I deserved better. Uncle Robert's inheritance had given me financial freedom, but that freedom started the moment I chose to stop participating in my own exploitation. The moment I said no and meant it. The moment I walked away from people who saw my value only in what I could provide. My parents eventually faced the full weight of their financial irresponsibility. Without access to my accounts or ability to manipulate me into covering their debts, they had to make genuine changes. They downsized to a small apartment, sold belongings to cover bills, and learned to live within the means the trust provided. The lifestyle they had projected, funded by taking from others, collapsed entirely. Their friends, the ones impressed by fake wealth and exotic vacations, disappeared when the money ran out. They were left with the reality they had avoided for decades. They were not special, not entitled, just deeply flawed people who had burned every bridge through their own selfishness. Looking back now, I understood that revenge was not about making them hurt the way they hurt me. It was about building a life so fulfilling, so successful, so genuinely happy that their absence from it was not a loss, but a blessing. Every achievement, every breakthrough in my research, every moment of peace in my beautiful home was proof that I had not just survived their toxicity, but had transcended it entirely. They had bet on me remaining their perpetual victim, and I had proven them catastrophically wrong.